100% to 500% rates of return? Yes, it is possible to earn even 100% rates of return and higher. In this episode, you're going to see how banks make infinite rates of return by learning the dynamics of money and how money really works. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've authored 11 books. In fact, my goal is to write a book every year the rest of my life. And I love to educate people like you on dynamics of money that are not taught often in the colleges and universities and the economic classes. Many times I'll ask this question to my audiences. If a bank or a credit union or an insurance company can borrow our money, okay? Because when we put our money in a bank or a credit union, it's in a lended position, okay? They're not just a benevolent institution paying us interest while it sits in some vault. What are they doing with our money? Well, they're investing it, reinvesting it, or loaning it back out again. They pay us 1 or 2% interest. The last 20 years has been the typical amount paid at a bank, pretty pathetic. And they turn around and loan that same money out at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. So if they're paying $20,000 of interest on every million that we deposit, that we loan them, they're paying $20,000 a year. They're making up to $100,000 a year when they make 10% or greater. So here's the question I ask. If a bank or a credit union can take and borrow our money at 1 or 2%, and they can put it into an institution like a multi-billion or multi-trillion dollar insurance company that is usually ranked about 6 notches higher in safety than the bank is. See, most banks are rated maybe up to, triple B is probably the average. And they can take the money they borrowed from us and increase the safety by 6 notches. That would be a triple A rated insurance company. So they can increase the safety and they can earn the rate of return even if they don't link to an index, which I do, which allows me to earn 10.07% average the last 25 years. They just put it in the insurance company's general account portfolio and they're satisfied with earning 5%. See, because they're paying $10,000 at 1% interest on every million, and they're making $50,000 by putting it in the insurance company. That's a 500% increase. Oh, they're making 500%. Again, I've asked many people, yeah, would you hire an employee for 10 grand that made you an extra 50 grand? I'll do that all day long. So that's what the banks are doing. Now, the question is, if a bank can do that, increasing the safety and the rate of return by 5 times, why in the world would a bank or credit union loan you or me money to go buy a house or build a home? And they would loan that to us at 3, 4, or 5%. Why would they take that risk? I mean, we're not near as strong as a big multi-billion dollar insurance company. Why would they do that? It's because of the velocity of money. Are you ready? So let's say I go and I borrow $500,000 or $1 million to build a nice home. What am I going to do with that money? I am going to pay the architect. I'm going to pay a general contractor. What's the general contractor going to do with the money I pay him or her? They're going to pay the subcontractors, the plumber, the electrician, the foundation people, the framers. Now, what are all those people going to do with that money that I paid the general contractor? They all are going to take what we pay them and they're going to loan it back to the bank again. They're going to put it in the bank and loan it back to the bank again at 1%. Now, wait a minute. Where did the bank get the money to loan me to build a house? From people who loaned the bank money at 1%. So they loan it out to me at 4 or 5% to build my house. I'm borrowing it out at 5. They're making 500%. And then I take that money and I pay it to contractors and subcontractors, and all those people deposit it back into banks at 1%. And the banks loan it out again at 5%. Wait a minute. Do you know how many times a year the bank will loan out that $1 million? On the average, 17 times a year. Did you hear that? The same $1 million the bank is borrowing at 1 and loaning out at 5, 17 times a year on the same money. Do the math. This is called the velocity of money. So the banks can afford to take a few risks by loaning me money because they have cushions in place. But that's why they do it, because they're earning up to 500%, 17 times on the same money, because they know every time they loan it out at 5, they're going to get it back at 1, and loan it out at 5 and get it back at 1, 17 times a year. Or maybe only 11 or 12 times a year in a recession. Shucky darn for them. Folks, this is the velocity of money. You could also probably do that and become your own banker, which I've taught for many years. But see, very simply put, if you want to be conservative, you can actually use OPM. I've borrowed money at 2%, at 3%. If I borrow money at 3%, tax deductible, in a 33% tax bracket, it's a net cost of 2. And I make 10% or more in my laser fund. How much more is 10 than 2? 500%. Wait a minute. The banks have been making 500%. I've been making 500%. We're both happy. You wouldn't believe how many Americans do not understand what I just shared with you. This is how to make 100%, 200%, even 500% rates of return. But in actuality, banks are making infinite rates of return because they don't even use their money. They're using borrowed funds, because when they look at borrowing money, their greatest asset is its liabilities. The banks and credit unions would wither up and die if they stopped paying interest. They pay interest to make more interest. And this is how they make 100 to 500% rates of return on the money, but it's not even their money. They're making it on OPM, so what's that called? An infinite rate of return. If this concept is intriguing you and you've never heard it before, it doesn't surprise me. It's amazing in our colleges and universities how we will spend all this time, energy, and money educating our children how to go out and earn a living, but we don't do much to educate them on what to do with that living. In actuality, your money should be earning more than you do by age 32. In a best-selling book that I co-authored with my 2 sons, Emron and Aaron, it was titled Millionaire by 30. By using these principles I'm talking about, they both, starting with nothing, ended up with net worth of $1.6 million by ages 26 and 28. And they didn't start out with anything except the wisdom of how to become your own banker. So many of my books, my first book was called Missed Fortune, M-I-S-S-E-D, Missed Fortune, because of the fortunes people miss out on when they simply don't know what they don't know, because of these money myth conceptions that borrowing and paying interest is bad. Well, then why do banks and credit unions borrow our money and pay us interest? If it's so bad, why do they do that? But a lot of people borrow to consume, to buy depreciating assets, snowmobiles and jet skis and so forth. No, whenever you borrow, you want to borrow to conserve, not consume. So when you understand the principle of safe positive leverage, the ability to pay lower interest rates, especially after the tax deduction, if you can tax deduct the interest you're paying, which you can do on a personal residence or a business property, and earn higher interest, this is what makes the world go round. Whenever a multi-millionaire or billionaire is buying a new property, they just don't pull out their checkbook and write out a check. They ask their money manager, what's the least amount that we have to cough up? And they keep their money in a liquid safe environment, earning a rate of return greater than what they can borrow it for. I was talking to a billionaire just the other day, and he said, I can't afford not to borrow. He was borrowing a total of $400 million because he can borrow at 3%. He can tax deduct it. It's a net cost of 2%, and he knows where he can earn 7, 8, 9, 10%. Again, would you pay $20,000 if an employee made you $80,000? Would you buy a widget machine for $20,000 that made you $80,000? Only he has scaled it to $400 million. If you do the math, he's making tens of millions of dollars every month by using this principle that I'm talking about. So yes, it is possible to earn 100% up to 500% rates of return by becoming your own banker. So I would recommend you watch this episode to understand the dynamics of money, the velocity of money, how to become your own banker, and then explore these concepts in any one of the books that we've written to help you understand how to do this on real estate, on your savings for retirement, how to move to a higher level of financial independence.